Much talk about what led to the absence of Aaron Connolly and Adam Idah as well. We know they were sitting within 1.7 and 1.9 metres of a positive COVID case on the plane to Slovakia. Stephen Kenny was questioned again today on the circumstances surrounding that. Let's just take a listen.
What happens in-house should sort of remain in-house, you know, and I think the certainty, realistically, the person, it was a non-essential football member it wasn't a football member, it's a non-essential member in terms of in a crisis situation that travelled, and that's something that we have to live with.
Brian, what do you make of that?
Well, Stephen was certainly very uncertain there. He didn't want to answer the question. It doesn't look like he was given an awful lot of guidance in relation to how to answer that question, which was more than likely going to come up. My understanding of it was that the press officer was the first one that had the COVID problem, and that it meant that he had to be replaced for the trip, and he was replaced by someone who was outside the original bubble, and that UEFA were doing the testing, and that UEFA passed the information of the failed test to the HSE, who then had to act, and that they demanded to see a video, CCTV video of the seating arrangements on the plane.
And there are suggestions, Stephen and Brian, that the lads, Aaron Connolly and Adam Idah, may have moved seats on the plane as well. What's your take on that? Well,
I would understand that there might have been a fair bit of movement on the plane. The lads were walking up and down the plane. Remember, they were wearing masks, and they also had all been cleared in advance of going and all passed all tests up until then. So I don't think that they were handcuffed to the seats, that they couldn't move on the plane, and that they were in restraining positions. I presume that people had to move about and use the bathroom occasionally and whatever. So I don't think that's an issue. Look, this is a very difficult situation for everybody involved, and I'm sure that the medical staff involved were doing their very best to comply with all restrictions and all care to make the best of it. But it turned out badly on a very, very fine line. If there was a mistake made, it wasn't a deliberate error.
There's a lot of grey areas with rules and regulations and what we're supposed to do. Half the members of the public aren't 100% sure either. So, I mean, it's a bit...
But we need to... I mean, just to pick up what Stephen Kennedy... He said the person was a non-essential football member. He wasn't a football member. He wasn't essential in terms of a crisis situation that travelled, and that's something we've to live with. Should the players be in an even tighter bubble? You were a manager. Who should be on that plane? Who shouldn't be on that plane from the back?
Well, back in my day, there was all sorts of Joe Soaps on the plane. So don't go back to that. I mean, who should be on the plane? I mean, who should be on the plane is the people that are essential to the playing of a football match, and the people that you need. Now, that unfortunately, as football has developed, and international football, you have an awful lot of staff involved. In my time, there wasn't so many staff involved. I had, a physio and a masseur. Now I think they have 4 people fulfilling those roles. You have a couple of kit men, but you also have people around the media area, and it may have been around that area that the problem was. Are they essential, that media people or someone to do communications goes on a trip to play a match? Probably not, but I think the manager also needs some help on the communication side. He has to have someone to deal with the questions and the requests that are coming from media that are based in Ireland. They didn't travel to the match, remember.
Well, are the media essential? I won't make any comment on that at all, Brian.
They ask the questions,
we ask the questions.